Someone contacted me a few weeks ago about a video I had posted entitled How to Sell Your Watch to a Reseller, such as Paul Thorpe. And that person who contacted me was Paul Thorpe. Welcome back to the Timeless Watch channel, guys. Good enough? Oh, that's way too bright. Okay. This time I am talking to a gentleman by the name of Paul Thorpe. If you're not familiar, I'm sure you are, but if you aren't familiar with him and his channel on YouTube, he is the ex-watch reseller who has retired from that business after many years and has taken to YouTube full-time to tell us all about his experiences and give us all the advice he has from the other side of the counter, so to speak. I'm personally a big fan of his channel. I watch pretty much every episode, and I particularly enjoy his episodes when he tells us incredible, sometimes quite alarming and distressing stories about the things that happened to him in his many years as a watch reseller. I recently posted a video by the name of, what was it called? How to Sell Your Watch to a Reseller, such as Paul Thorpe. Some people liked the video, some people didn't. One person who did like the video and found it interesting was the man himself, and he gave me a phone call yesterday. We had a little chat about that very topic, and yes, I took the sunglasses off. I'm having a conversation with a very distinguished gentleman on the phone. Of course, I'm going to treat him with respect. I'm going to wear sunglasses on a phone call. Hey, Paul.
How you doing?
Good to talk to you, man.
And you, at last. We've been speaking a while on email, and it's we finally got it together.
Well, you're a busy boy, you know. Very busy man indeed.
Too busy.
Finally getting past your Brighton show and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I was following every moment of it. Looks very exciting stuff.
It was a good experience. Yeah, I think I can safely say it was a good experience.
So I had posted a video kind of about you, but not really about you directly, more about watch reselling and resellers and specifically selling a watch to a reseller. And that's when you reached out to me. What were your thoughts on that, and why did you reach out to me?
Well, I can't. Do you know something? I'm going to be totally frank with you. I'd have to watch it again.
It's been a few weeks.
It's been a few weeks, but
Right.
I think what it was that I thought it was I think it was one of the first times that I'd actually seen your channel. Okay. And I have to say that I like your channel. I love the intro. It's very classy. I like your style and the way you do things.
Thanks.
And I thought, yeah, no, I mean that. And I thought, I'm going to reach out to this guy because I think that some of the information that he genuinely believes wasn't wrong, but just needed sort of like the dealer's side put to you as well, so that you might better understand and be better armed to actually understand the business from my side of the counter, as well as your own. Now, just before, funny enough, we come online, I was just going through some old account work, and I pulled out about 15 bounced checks that I've still got that total over £100,000. Whenever I see this stuff, I always think to myself, yeah, and it's you guys that can't trust the watch dealers, so
right.
It's always like, I will do my best to give it from my side of the counter, whilst always trying to remember what it's like to be on your side of the counter at the same time. And I think that's why I sort of reached out to you.
Well, let me just fill in anybody who's watching who hasn't actually seen my video. I'll just kind of make it very brief. Basically, I was going through the kind of things that the resellers, in my observation, get up to, and this kind of applies not only to the watch world but many other worlds of buying and selling, where you're buying from the public. That's your source. You're not buying wholesale from Tudor or from Rolex or whatever.
Sure.
You're buying your main source. All your watches in the window are used watches. They're watches that were on someone else's wrist and have arrived in your window for whatever reason. And basically, I was just going through, I think I thought of a better analogy for it. I speak a lot in analogies on my channel. I hope it doesn't annoy people too much, but I often think of that, the theater, the drama and the sad face and the happy face. So you have the sad face and the happy face, those two masks that you see in the theater district in New York. And it kind of reminds me of it, that in short, to make it as brief as possible, that when you bring in your watch, you get a lot of the sad face, like, oh my God, this isn't in great condition, and oh, this isn't a very popular model anymore, etc., in order to bring down your price. And then you turn around and walk out with less money than you would hope for. The next guy walks in looking for that watch, and all of a sudden the happy mask comes on, and it's like, oh my God, this watch is the best watch in the world, and it's got a few scratches, but they're no big deal, and you have to expect that for the age. And all of a sudden the whole story, and it kind of can be a little of a dance, a little bit of a play act or something like that. So I guess that's what.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest and let's be frank with each other. I mean, look, I think there's an element of that goes on probably in most business, whether you're selling real estate, whether you're selling cars, whether you're selling watches. I can only really speak for myself and one or two other dealers that I know very, very well as well. I tell you something that I always used to... you talk about the happy and the sad faces. I would have and you're absolutely right, people would come into my store with watches to sell, and to be frank, some people I liked, some people I would take almost an instant dislike to. It depends on their personality and their approach, doesn't it? And that's, whatever you do in life, you could meet someone in the street and they could ask you the time, and they could ask you the time in a really polite fashion that makes you want to stop and say to them, this is the time and have a nice day. Or they could ask you in a fashion where you think, you know what, I don't even want to speak to you, let alone give you the time of day. So the same would happen when, I hope I'm making sense here, when people would come into my shop. The ones that always used to get to me were when people used to bring in their parents' watches when they had died. It was usually a dad, and it was often a daughter. For some reason, it was often a daughter that would bring in her dad's watch and say her dad had passed away, and she would tell me the story about how, he saved up for this watch. And there's part of me thinking, well, why are you selling it? But then I have to remember that actually, do you know what? They may need the money. And I can swear to God, this is the honest truth. Every time that happened, I would do a deal with the person, whatever it was financially. I'm not going to make out that I would pay them extra. I would pay them the going rate. But what I would do is that when they went, I would hand the watch to a member of my staff and I would say, that's got to go to a good home, that watch. Because I knew that there was a lot of love involved in its history. And I would want to make sure that watch went to someone that was going to appreciate it as much as its previous owner did. Now, I think there are a lot of watch dealers who probably, just like human beings, we're all human, we all have different ways of dealing with things. That might mean nothing to some people. To others, it might be sentimental and it might get to play on their heartstrings. For me, it would get to me a little bit, and I would always try and do my best. But from a financial point of view, business is business, and you have to be fair, but you have to work and make a living profit. And I don't always think that the public appreciate the costs involved in being a watch dealer. Okay, so you have costs. You have big overheads. Costs. It is your living. Yeah. Your family are depending on you making the money. Why on earth wouldn't you push them down as hard as you can, no matter what the circumstances? I think that all depends on your own personality, doesn't it? I mean, again, we would have. I find it a little bit embarrassing to some degree, because I don't want people to sit there thinking, oh, he keeps telling us, you know, how good his integrity was. I can only tell you the truth. I mean, look, I would have elderly people come to the shop, and I was always make sure that I was double correct on the price that I was giving them. Yes, my job was to buy the watch as cheap as possible, but my job doesn't involve, or didn't involve, deliberately ripping someone off either.
Right. So let's say somebody walks in with a watch that you know you can sell fairly easily for maybe 10,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And they come in, and normally you're used to paying whatever. I don't know what you're used to paying. 8,500 if it's excellent condition, 9,000,
Yeah,
whatever you might.
there or thereabouts.
Okay, so let's say someone comes in, they don't really know what they have, or they just don't know, or they expect because it's been worn, they think the value has gone way down, and they say, I'd love 4,000 for it. What do you do?
Yeah.
Do you
Okay,
give them
but
4,000 and say,
no,
wow, I just made a killing?
No, I've got the perfect answer to that, and this is a lot easier to work out than people might first imagine. If I know your example, and it's a perfect one. So what you're saying is, someone walks into walks into my shop. They've got a watch that they bought 25 years ago for £4,000. They'd love their money back, or as close to it, but actually that watch is now worth 8.5.
Yes.
My reaction to that would be is that, look, that person is going to see that watch in my window when he walks past here again this time next week. If he doesn't see it in my window, he may see it online. My reaction to that would be, I would say to him, look, I'm going to be perfectly frank with you. That watch is actually worth quite a bit more than you're asking me. However, this is how I'd like you to work with me. I'm going to sell this watch. I'm going to ask around 10,000 for this watch. I'm going to put it up at like 9,995 to take.
Will you'll tell the seller that?
Yeah. Well, look, if he walks past my shop next week and sees it in the window, I'm going to look a real fool, aren't I?
Right.
So I'm going to tell him what I'm going to put it up for, and I'm going to say to him, look, I'm going to put it up for 9,995. I'm going to take 9.5 out of that. I've got VAT to pay on the profit. I have 40% tax to pay, and I have my staff, etc., etc., etc. And I don't get up in the morning and dress up like this for fun. So I need some remuneration. So what I'm going to suggest to you is this. I am happy to give you, if you want to give me that watch and I'll sell it for you on a commission basis, I will return you a much higher figure than the price I'm prepared to pay you right now in cold hard cash or by bank transfer. And I would let them make the decision. The key is that you have to tell your customer potentially what you're going to sell the watch for, or at least what you're going to ask for it, and then explain to them that your asking price isn't necessarily the price that you're going to get, and it certainly doesn't represent the profit that you're going to put in your pocket after Mr. Vatman and Mr. Inland Revenue has had their pound of flesh. It's two different entirely figures.
Okay. Are you the exception to the rule, Paul? Like, you
No,
are
I
a
don't
very
think so.
charitable guy. You're a very generous guy, as far as I can tell from your videos and everything you've been doing recently with the watch community there in England. And you seem like a very solid bloke. Of course, this is all, I don't know you personally. I only know you through the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
But, you know, what I'm trying to get to the bottom of here is, are you different to your average watch dealer? For example, recently I was in, I know a very reputable watch mender here where I am in North Italy. He represents Omega and Rolex and so on. He's a pretty big guy in the mending. He mentioned recently, I'm like, so what's your deal with resellers? You know, what's your take on them? And he said to me, they're all sharks. That's what he said. He just looked at me straight. And this is a guy who's been in the business 45 years. He looks at me, because they're all sharks. You just have to know that. Now, they're nice guys. The guys here in Italy, lovely fellas. The guys in New York, a little less, but they have less time for you. You know, it's a busy place. But what I'm trying to feel out here is, from my perspective, and perhaps the audience's perspective, you either are an oasis in a very cold desert, or you represent a percentage of the watch sellers that are actually stand-up guys, that are nice guys, that are truthful guys, and that you see over the fence. You see the other kind of guys who deal in watches, and you kind of have nothing to do with them.
Look, there is no doubt there are obviously people like that around, and they probably represent the majority, the majority, not the vast majority, but the majority of people that deal in watches. Because like any other business, business is business, money is money, and you know, human nature, greed, etc. Everything kicks in.
Sure.
But what I will say is that no, I don't think it is just me. I don't think I was an oasis. I know a lot of people in the watch business that are extremely honourable people. A lot of them are very, very honourable people. And I'm not going to actually start spitting out names, but they would run off the end of my tongue, to the point where I've been to watch shows where I've paid people, and I've paid them in €500 notes. And I remember one year a guy came back to me, tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Paul, you gave me €500 too much." The thing is,
Wow.
is that this is an industry just like any other. There are good, there are bad, and there are downright ugly. But I would like to think that it's no different from any other business. There are good car dealers, there are bad car dealers. I think the big thing with the watch business is that if you've got any brains, and this is the bottom line, if you have any grey matter between your ears, you know that the bad way is a short-term fix. My mum and dad taught me this a long, long time ago. You're either in a business for the long run or you're in it for the quick kill. If you're in it for the quick kill, you can try and play all sorts of games because you just don't care. And the watch business is full of people that have been in and out, in and out. And then the watch business has people that have been in the business for years and years and years, and everyone knows that they would rather just have a peaceful life than have the grief of trying to do things wrong for a quick buck. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
So would it ever happen that you give someone more than you had to completely? That you just look at them and say, this person, God help them, they don't know what they have, and I literally can't live with myself taking the deal.
I can truthfully say with my hand on my absolute heart, and I can tell you this, there are staff members that I employed right now probably watching this video, and I haven't spoken to them for years, and I can guarantee you that they would to this day say, I have witnessed Paul do exactly that on numerous occasions. Not because I'm a saint, but because I'm not a sinner and I'm not a stupid. I'm not going to let that person walk past my shop next week and say, this bloke told me he was going to sell this for $5,000 and it's in his window for 10. You know,
well, there it is. Can I stop you right there? Just sorry. Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
If you didn't have a shop window, or if you, like the guys I dealt with in New York, you're in someone's office on the 35th floor, you don't know what store that's going in, you'll never see that watch again. It would be extremely lucky to spot the same watch. There's thousands of stores and all of that.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't run that risk of them seeing the watch and going, oh my God, he's selling that for way more than I thought. Oh my God, I got ripped off. Even if you didn't have that risk, would you still do the same? Sorry to press you on this.
No.
Sorry to press you on it, man.
It's a great question. I'm going to give you a really candid answer. The answer to the question is it depends on who it was. Now, let me tell you something. In the watch business, as a watch dealer, you meet some undesirable people. They reckon the watch business itself believes that around 20 to 25% of money that is spent on watches, luxury watches, every year is dirty money.
Oof.
Now, when you use the word or the term dirty money, what does that mean? Drug money, money laundering. It could be whatever mask or whatever title you want to give it, okay? If I've got someone sitting in front of me and they are what I would class as someone that I don't particularly have a lot of time for, whose lifestyle I don't have a particularly lot of time for, whose attitude is not to my liking, yeah, if he asked me for 4,000 for a watch that's worth 10, do you know what? I might just give him the 4 because I think it's payback. I'm just being candid. I didn't like everyone that I dealt with. You don't have to like someone to sell them a watch. You don't have to like someone to buy a watch from them. And there are, without a doubt, people that used to come to me to sell me watches, and I knew about their lifestyle. I knew what they were. I knew what they did for a living, and I can't say that I approved. I wasn't going to do them any financial favours. I'd rather give it to my kids.
Right.
But if you came in my shop off the street and you were young, you were old, you were infirm, you were a regular family person, you would get my honest decision from my heart, unless you give me reason to treat you otherwise. And I don't think I can be any more honest than that. If someone, being blunt, if someone come into my shop and treated me like I was a pig and they acted like a pig, they can have a pig service.
Really is based on your mood that day and how everything kind of flows. There is no protocol, so to speak. There's no exact recipe of how to do this kind of business.
No, there's no science to it. No, there's no science to it. But I will say this, is that my mood is always, I'm a very stable individual. My mood is always, I'm always in this state of relative calm. I would like to think relative calm and in control of my actions.
Right.
And I was prepared for anyone and anything that walked into my store, whether it be a good guy or a bad guy. I believe that my life experience made me prepared for that. But I cannot, my wife, I've been married to my wife for nearly 30 years, and she is a woman of complete and utter, absolute, she's the best human being that I've ever met in my entire life. She would not take a penny from anyone. And she is as honest as a day's long. And my wife wouldn't have it.
Right.
If I was playing games with people, she would disown me. And that's just the way we live our lives. I'm sorry if it's boring, and I'm sorry if it's like,
it's not boring at all. It's the very opposite. That's why we're all watching your channel, Paul.
Well, this is the way we live our lives, and if everyone was like that, the world would be a better place. And I've always said, I have a really, really, really strong belief. If someone said to me, what's the biggest belief that you have? And it's about our country, and it's about people in general. The mark of a good man is, or a good country, the mark of a good society is how they look after their young, how they look after their old, and how they take care of their sick. And if you get those three things right in your life, you are on path to leave a good legacy, not only for the people that you leave behind, but for the people for the future as well. That is my strong, firm belief.
So you have a kind of an open theory here. You have a clear conscience, if you don't mind me making that projection.
Absolutely, 100%. But I would say there's something else that I feel that's only right to mention here, because there are always two sides to a coin, as I'm sure you know. And look, it's very easy to be honest when you have money. That's my belief. Okay, it's a hell of a lot easier to be honest when you've got money than it is to be honest when you haven't got any money and you've got kids that need feeding, you've got know bills to pay. So there are always two sides to the coin. I can't truthfully say, I don't know. I mean, if I was brought up without any money, if I was struggling to feed my children, if I was struggling to pay the mortgage, you don't know. You don't know. It's very easy to play the saint, isn't it? But you have to look at the other side of the coin as well and say, look, maybe there's a story. Maybe this guy's got a sick kid at home. Who needs hospital treatment. You know, sometimes there are two sides to a story. But in the watch business, if you've done your job right, there is really no need to be trying to play any games with anyone. You don't need to. You earn enough money as it is. Look, we can all spend another £1 or another $1, but then there's out and out greed. And I've retired early, and you know, I look at my finances sometimes and think, well, you know, if I live to a really ripe old age, there might be a time where I could be in trouble. But you know, watch dealing is a business where if you did suddenly need a few quid, you can do one or two deals and you've maybe earned enough money to live for another 6 months. So it's not too much of a problem. Listen, anyway, enough about me. What about you? I've got a couple of questions for you.
Oh, sure. Hit me.
So first of all, where does that accent come from exactly? Because you've got a bit of a mixture going on there.
I know, everybody's asked me. I'm going to have to make a video now. I am originally from Dublin. I grew up in Dublin in Ireland. Yeah. And I went all around the world with a rock band called Mr. North. We were fairly successful, and we wound up in New York. and we signed a major record label over there, major record deal, I should say. And I lived in New York for 20 years. I mean, I'm still there. I come back and forth. I have a history here in Italy. I have a daughter here who lives in Italy. So I come over and I spend time with her here, and then go back and forth. But I did 20 years solid in New York. So I think what you're hearing is the Dublin thing with a little bit of the how you gonna do it, you know, kind of, you know, the New York thing creeping in,
I suppose you must have, you know, like New York and the Irish, massive connections. So I guess you're kind of at home. I'm going to ask you the obvious question, and you will get this all the time. You see, people are always saying to me, "Paul, you look like Vinnie Jones." So I'm going to ask you, when was the last time you saw Andrew Ridgeley?
I got, you know, what I've been getting is Andrew Ridgeley's previous partner in music was George Michael.
Yeah.
Got a lot of George Michael, and I have a good friend in New York who's also a big watch fan and one of my best friends in the world, who loves George Michael and has followed his career. And he's like, "You don't look anything like George." They're just seeing sunglasses and a beard, and they hear a bit of an accent. They're like, "It's George Michael."
I've got a confession to make. This is funny, mate. I tell you, back in the day, I mean, like, you know, I was like out on the town in the 80s with my friends, you can imagine, you know, and the look was the George Michael look, the long hair, the Wham! Last Christmas look, etc., etc.
Sure. Oh, maybe it's the hair. Oh my God,
That was the look. And
Christmas.
I used to travel into central London to have my hair cut by a guy called Alan So. He was Chinese, and he used to cut George Michael's hair. And Melanie Michael, George Michael's sister, used to wash my hair before Alan So used to cut it. And I used to go back to my friends and boast that George Michael's sister washes my hair and George Michael's hairdresser cuts my hair. What a poser.
Well, man, you know, you got to go through those years, you know.
I think back then it was like 150 quid.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
It's crazy money.
Made me look like him. Yeah, absolutely.
It was crazy money. But what about your channel? That music that you have, your channel is really classy. It's got a feel to it. I really like it. It's almost like,
thanks.
Every time I watch it, it reminds me of Goodfellas or whatever. It's that kind of Casino. It's got that kind of feel to it as you open it up. You know, it's cool.
Yeah, I've been asked about the music, the Bach, the St. Matthew's Passion that I use at the start.
Right.
You know, for me, you know, it starts with the passion for watches. That's where it begins. I'm not trying to look slick or any of that. I wear the sunglasses because I'm right beside the bloody window and I stay up all night, and I have a passion for whiskey as well. I'm also in connection with LA and New York all the time. So every time I'm in Italy, I'm constantly have jet lag because I'm constantly, you know, I'm up till the guys in LA don't care what time you go to bed. You know, they're not. I have to remind them sometimes. Oh, by the way, it's 7 a.m. here, guys. Are we finished doing business? Okay, can I put down the phone and go to bed? But yeah, it wasn't to look slick. It's because to me, there's a few different images about watches out there. When I look at a watch, I see something kind of old and eternal and beautiful. I see it's like looking at a violin for me, or for looking at a very old bottle of wine or something. It's something that I hear a chorus. You know, a Bach chorus in a church in my mind when I see a beautiful watch. Now, some people are different. I think some people look at a watch and they want to hear dance music or rock and roll. You know, they have a kind of a different attitude. I've noticed on some of the other channels, you know, they show close-ups of a watch and they play some kind of modern music, and that's fine. That's the way they, in their mind's eye, they see the watch. In my eye, I see the whole world of horology just like that intro. It's like this huge. It started with, you know, Breguet and, you know, Galileo and all these amazing people trying to make a connection between science and man. And it to me, it's still a wonder, and I think it might be one of the reasons why we watch people, as you would say, kind of have a connection with this stuff, is because it's not just jewelry. It's this little world sitting on our wrist, and it represents hundreds of years of development and research in mathematics and geometry and so on. You know.
I think it's great. I think because everyone has their own different styles, and it gives the viewers out there, you know, if they get fed up with watching me waffle on, they can move on to Adrian over at Bark and Jack or yourself, or they can go and watch someone else that, you know, speaks with a better tone than me. And it ultimately, I think it's great. You know, you've got a choice. And
yeah, well, it's one of the great things. I don't know if this is going to last forever, but right now on social media and the watch community, we do have some extremely different characters, and it's a beautiful thing. With your channel in particular, Paul, I would quite often just leave my phone in my pocket and just listen to you tell these stories. That I didn't even need to kind of sit there and look at you, because you're just telling the story. It's like real page turner stuff. It was like reading a novel sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe, you know, what happened next? What happened next? And I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful thing. You have Bark and Jack, and he has kind of very slick, high quality videos, and he keeps them nice and brief. And then you have Posh Boy, sure.
Posh Boy. If you're watching, Adrian, you're a posh boy.
Well, I mean, as you say, you've got a salad here. You've got, you know, if you get bored with one, you can go over to the other. You can hear you telling amazing stories of real experiences, enthralling stuff. You can go over to Adrian, who's just going to sip on some coffee and say, oh, I think this watch is okay, and here's some nice shots of it. And then you can go over to some other colourful characters in Australia who might just scream at the camera, but it's okay, you know. It's like, it's a little bit of everything.
100%, 100%. I would always advise people don't watch too much of me, because sometimes I can be a bit, I would imagine I can be a bit depressive, because I've said this in a video previously. You know, someone said to me, Paul, you need a bit more light-hearted content. And I've said to them, look, the watch business isn't a light-hearted business. If you want a comedian, go and watch Mickey Flanagan. You know, he's brilliant.
Well, I wasn't watching you for the comedy, I can tell you. I mean, I was watching. It wasn't a downer. Of course, some of the information is a little distressing, of course. Yeah. But hey, when you watch a movie, you mentioned it, Goodfellas earlier, you know, guys shooting each other, that's distressing too, but we still want to watch it. So it's entertaining. I mean, it's entertainment. Unfortunately, it is. I know these are real events that happen to you, and I feel almost bad saying that, but to us, it is an education, and it is entertaining. We want to know what happened. Like the story about the guy who sold you that was the first one that grabbed me, the guy who sold you the Submariner, and then a police officer came in, or an insurance guy came in the following week or something. Yeah. And I was literally like, if my phone ran out of battery in that moment, I would have run home and charged it, because I was on the edge of my seat. I wanted to know what happened. That, my friend, proves that it's about content with this stuff. For
me, it's about content.
And that's a beautiful thing. I mean, I like to do some close-ups on the watches and so on, so people can see, you know, with nice lighting and all that. And it takes hours and hours to do that kind of stuff. But honestly, if it's not engaging content, I don't think there's any reason to kind of tune into it. But
100%.
Anyway, I think that it's wonderful. The watch community is a wonderful thing that's happening. It's very, very exciting. I'm excited to even just be a very, very small part of it. And I think guys like yourself and all the other the usual colorful characters out there are making up something really, really interesting. I'm honored to be talking to you, because of course what you're doing lately with the watch community, as you call it, you know, the watch people. Yeah. And you know, it's funny because watch people are a diaspora, as you know. You don't, like, my next door neighbor has no idea about watches, and my other neighbor downstairs has no idea about watches, but somewhere out there there's a guy who knows about watches, you know. It's the internet seems to be, and YouTube seems to be a way of those people connecting. And when I just watched your Brighton show there, the highlights of the show, I'm thinking, there they all are, you know. They just they grouped together, and that's a really wonderful thing, Paul, and I wish you the best with
you so
any
much.
Developments in that.
Thank you very much. It's like when I go out and ride on my bike, you know, every time I'm out on my Harley, you know, you pass another biker and they'll give you a nod. They're acknowledging the fact that you're a fellow biker. Right. And I kind of want to try and create that sort of feeling and that sort of closeness and community within the watch industry, or the watch amongst watch collectors and owners, if you like. Look, whether it works or not, there's nothing ventured, nothing gained, eh? That's the way I look at it.
Well, I can definitely tell you anyway, in response to the other gentleman who said lighten up your channel, I wouldn't say. I would say keep it as it is. It's not a downer of a channel. I can tell you that. It's very, very interesting stuff. It's very educational, and it comes from the heart, man. You can tell that you're speaking from the heart all the time, and that's all that matters, you know.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's been great talking to you, Paul.
Perfect.
I don't want to keep any more of your time.
It's been my pleasure.
And I wish you the best. I was watching one of your live things there last night, and you're going to do something for Christmas apparently. It just gave me an idea. Yeah. Maybe I should do a last Christmas, a George Michael last Christmas video.
Well,
just to get that out of my system.
Mate, we've got to do something. We've got to do something for Watch People for Christmas, and like, I've set myself a bit of a challenge. What's it going to be? I don't know. I just hope it doesn't involve me dressing up as Santa Claus, because I might have the belly for it.
You know that's going to happen. Something ridiculous is going to happen.
Something's going to
be
crazy.
But look at you. You're just over the Brighton show, and now you're already planning for the next thing.
Planning for the next thing, absolutely.
Good
Cheers,
man.
mate. It's been really brilliant talking to you. Thanks very much, and keep up the good work on the channel, because I genuinely mean it. It's one that I enjoy.
Thank you, and I love your channel. All right, good talking to you, Paul.
Thanks,
Take it easy, Paul.
Take care.